Welcome! Welcome to today's episode of Carren's Couch, where I have the wonderful, the extraordinary, expert in relationships coming all the way from New York, Dr. Jane Greer. Thank you so much for joining us again today, Dr. Greer.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to be here with you talking about relationships, making them work, making them better so that everybody can get what they want from the person that they're with.
Can't wait. I can't wait. Now, we've got a very special topic to talk about with you today, and I know that you've also written about this in your media commentary called Shrink Wrap. Now, for those of our guests who haven't been to see Dr. Greer on her media commentary, you've got to check her out, and you can follow her on Twitter as well. So we'll make sure that all of that information is provided for you so that you can follow Dr. Greer avidly like we do. So today, Dr. Greer, we want to talk to you about anger management, because that's a big one. That's a doozy in relationships because, you know, when we spoke on our last show with you, we talked about controlling in relationships. And we spoke about how controlling in relationships can show up either covertly or overtly. So a person's either overtly, showing you that they're trying to control you, or they're doing it passively through withdrawal. And I think the same is true with anger. So talk to us about that. How does anger show up in a relationship, and what are the consequences of it? What happens with that?
Excellent question. And anger is one of the most difficult things to live with in a relationship with your partner and to tolerate if your partner is angry with you. The first indicator that your partner is annoyed or angry with you is that it typically comes out through the tone of their voice and through criticism and blame. Rather than it necessarily being, the obvious signs are you have a disagreement, a spat, they get angry, they don't talk to you for a little bit, or they will withdraw and go into silence. But the more steady stream of anger is the kind that is a constant shot at you where you're being put down, you're being criticized, you're being blamed. You ask your partner, do you want some milk in your coffee? And they say, why are you asking me that? With an annoyed tone, as if they're angry with you. And then you're trying to figure out, did I say something? Did I do something? What are they mad at me for? And before you realize it, you wind up either feeling that you're tiptoeing around because you don't want to, or you don't know what you're going to say that's going to elicit a critical, sharp, stabbing, stinging, blaming statement coming your way. And so it's really unpleasant, and it really feels anxiety provoking when you're dealing with a partner who's constantly angry with you.
So anger is a natural emotion. It's part of the human condition. We're going to get angry with things, and not necessarily even with our partners. Do you think that, because men and women do communicate differently, do you think that men are more likely to hold in whatever they're angry about, and women are more likely to think that it's about them when potentially it's about something completely different?
It's so true. Men are raised very often to be stoic and to shoulder things and to keep their emotions under the cuff. And so half the time, the women that they're with don't even realize they're angry with them until their behavior is a shout out that they're annoyed about something. And very typically what will happen is their behavior will be something along the lines that they will forget to do something really important that you asked them, or they'll do something completely contrary to what you were planning on. They'll change the plans. Whatever it is, you're left confused and upset and angry yourself at what just happened. And then when you go to broach it and confront them, all of a sudden they're blasting you with why they're mad at you for what you did or said 3 days before. And you're saying, where did this come from? Again, because they are very oftentimes, they will not be direct about what's upsetting them or making them angry in the moment. The only cue that you get is when their behavior makes you mad. And that's why people have such a hard time talking out and working out difficulties, because the point at which you're confronting your partner, that you're upset and angry with them, you're not expecting them to come back at you with what they've been carrying for a day, 2 days, a week of being angry with you. And then people lock horns. And nobody can get through because nobody's saying, I understand, because everybody's mad.
Do you think that that's a huge contributor to why relationships fall down? I mean, if people are not able, and especially when anger's present, I mean, that's an emotion that's got a lot of charge and a lot of heat behind it.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
when there's no communication occurring, this sounds to me like this is probably one of the number one reasons why relationships would break down. Because one partner's angry with the other, and then the other becomes angry because they're angry, and there's no potential for meeting of the minds. How does a relationship work when either one partner or both partners are angry and not getting it out and not sharing it at the time that it's occurring?
Exactly. Well, it's a terrific question, because it's what I call the never-ending fight. There's typically between couples the issue that is the Achilles heel of the relationship. And nobody can get through to the other person. Nobody understands where the other person's coming from. Neither party is willing to compromise. Each person feels misunderstood and unloved because of their partner's unwillingness to budge. And what people typically do when they can't get through is they leave it behind. They put it on the shelf. Life is so full, life is so busy, there are so many responsibilities that we all have and have to deal with, that we just get back into the swing of our relationship. The issue has been tabled and is on the back burner, but it doesn't go away. And over time, all the little, what I call in my book, paper cuts, all the small issues that we have and disagree on, they start to hurt more and more and more and more. And suddenly, one or both people are walking around with such a degree of resentment and anger that that's the point that relationships start to deteriorate.
So what does somebody do about this? I mean, in your experience, no doubt you've seen hundreds and thousands of people in relationships that have experienced this issue, where anger really stands in the way of them being able to actually experience love with each other and intimacy. You know, there's a couple that I know of that have been married for a long, long time, probably, I'd say at least 15 years. And both partners are really quite volatile. You know, I know them as two little volcanoes, and they're very, very volatile, and they're volatile in their relationship together. But it's almost like when they love passionately, but when they hate passionately, God help everybody around them, including the kids. So how does a relationship actually get to experience genuine and real love when there's all of that dynamic going on?
Well, two things. First of all, the anger is really important. If you have a pain in your tooth, it tells you something is wrong. Go to the dentist and get it taken care of. Anger in a relationship tells you something is wrong between us. Something is not working. Something needs to be enhanced, tweaked, fixed. We need to make a change. So if you can recognize your anger, and it's not that you shouldn't get angry or not express your anger, but you want to do it productively. You want to do it to bring about change. And most people, very often when they're angry, they just want to vent and get it out. And that's like taking gasoline and spilling it in the street, and you've got nothing left to put in the car to take you where you want to go. So if you can use your anger to say to your partner, look, I'm really upset and angry about this particular issue, or when you did this, I got angry. Here's how I would like things to be different in the future. Can we make that happen? So that you're always pointing in the direction of how to change things for the better next time you encounter this issue. That's the first thing. The second thing, most fundamental and most difficult, you know, the simplest things can be the most confounding. Most people, for example, if somebody came to you and said, Carren, I'm so upset, you know, you were supposed to call me and you didn't call, and then I missed the bus and I didn't get to where I needed to be, and how could you do that? The knee-jerk reaction that most people have is to start explaining what happened. I meant to call you, but I got held up, or I had this emergency, before saying, look, I'm really sorry. Most people think that the apology is somehow admitting that you intentionally did something wrong. And very often, people get upset and angry, and we didn't do it intentionally. We didn't even realize we were doing it, but it doesn't change the fact that they're upset. So if right out of the gate, you can simply relate to your partner's anger with look, I'm sorry if you're upset. That's not what I was thinking, or that's not what I intended. And leave it at that. If they want to hear what happened, let them ask you, well, what happened? How come? Then they'll really listen to you. If you offer up an explanation, it's the equivalent of saying, I didn't do it. I wasn't at fault. There was nothing wrong here. And you have no reason to feel the way that you do. And that is like taking the fire extinguisher. If you want to put out the anger, just say, I'm sorry you're so upset. That's not what I intended.
That is profound. And you're right. It's often the most simple things are the most challenging. Because, I think anger is just a natural expression of humanity. But the profundity of what you've just said there is where you're actually acknowledging that the other person is upset. And you're not saying it was my fault and I'm wrong. And then there's also no need to take the opposite approach of defending yourself and saying, well, you're wrong. You shouldn't be thinking that. You're actually just apologizing for the scenario and your contribution to that scenario because you never intended that. I have this belief that nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, oh, here I am, it's 6:30 in the morning, what a great day, I'm going to ruin my husband's day today.
Exactly.
Nobody wakes up thinking that. So if things like that do occur, it's unintentional. And to be able to express an apology that's occurred, I just think that is the most simple thing that a person can do, because it's not invalidating your partner's feelings and it's not invalidating their view. It's actually acknowledging them, and that's all we want, isn't it? I mean, we just want to be heard.
Exactly, and that's what it takes. And unfortunately, because very often anger comes at us in the way of criticism and blame. What's the matter with you? Why were you late? How come you did this? People feel attacked, and so they initially go into, I didn't do it, I didn't mean it, rather than saying, look, if they were late, look, I'm sorry. Whatever the reason was, maybe it was that there was a fire and they couldn't get out of the building, but still, their partner is angry because they were waiting. So just apologize for that. Once in a blue moon, there are those people, when you validate their feelings and say, look, I'm sorry, when you validate their anger, sometimes that will make them angrier. It's like, yeah, see, I have a right to be angry, and then they rev it up a notch. But that too, if they do it, all you need to do is say, yeah, you're right, I would be angry too. Empathize. I could understand that you're angry. If you want to take some space till you cool off, just know I didn't do it intentionally, and I'll look to see it doesn't happen again. I'll be more aware next time. Because a lot of times, Carren, the unintentional things happen because we're not aware. And so our partner's anger, like I said earlier, the pain in the tooth tells us something needs to be done. Sometimes their anger tells us, you know what, we do need to be more aware next time. If this is something that is really distressing and upsets them, maybe we can remember that and pay closer attention so we don't do it again.
Years ago, I've got an older sister, and years ago, my sister actually said to me, if you want to have relationships that work, always acknowledge the other person's feelings. Always say, yes, you're right. You're right that you feel that way, and I get that you feel that way. And she said, and then, there's an opportunity for an explanation or a conversation if it opens up, and you've reiterated everything that she's just said, and it's all just coming back to me now. I feel like I'm 13, Dr. Greer, thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you so much.
This has been a really fabulous show of just, I guess, really bringing awareness to some of the challenges that we face in our relationships. And I think Dr. Greer's ability to be straight to the point and really strike at the heart of how we can start to create some changes to get some really positive interactions going in our relationships. I think it's absolutely invaluable. So stay tuned, because I've got some more to talk to you about when it comes to being angry in relationships. It's just another view. It's just to start to get us thinking a little bit differently. So welcome back. I wanted to just give you my view, Carren's view, on what we were just talking about when it comes to anger management. Now, you know, I think that there's something that we've really got to understand. In society, we seem to have this view that being angry is bad. Angry is an explosive emotion and it's not a good emotion, which then drives most of us to suppress our anger. Now, Louise Hay, she's amazing. She says that anger turned outward is expression and anger turned inward is sickness. And I think that there could be some validity in that. I don't know, but that's just my personal view on it. I want to give us something else to think about when it comes to getting angry, and it's not just in our relationships, but it's in life in general. How about we look at it from the perspective of anger is an emotion. Just like sadness and happiness and excitement and enthusiasm, these are all emotions that we feel, and it's part of being human. We're not going to not feel anger. So to try to not feel anger, I think, is counterproductive. But there's a way to look at anger, and there's a way to look at all of our emotions that I think gives us a little bit more freedom and a little bit more of a say and a little bit more sense of control. And that is to say to ourselves, I am not my emotions. You know, think about that. I have a hand, but I am not my hand. I have emotions, but I'm not my emotions. I have a voice, but I'm not my voice. I'm more than all of those things. I'm way more than all of those things. So my body and my personality and through my emotions, it's a way of expressing myself, but it doesn't actually make me who I am, because I am way more than that. So when we start to feel these emotions, even great emotions, positive emotions, and negative emotions, if we were to look at them and say, well, you know what? I feel excited, but I am not the emotion of excitement. I'm heaps more than that. What else am I? Well, I'm funny, and I'm creative, and I'm all these other things. So when we just pigeonhole ourselves as saying, I am angry, it really limits us and squeezes us into only being angry. But when we open up our view, when we're feeling these emotions, especially the intense ones that have got lots of heat and charge around them, when we open up ourselves to say, well, I'm feeling angry, and what else am I feeling? Well, I'm also feeling hungry right now, and I'm also feeling a little bit tired, and I'm also feeling clear, and I'm feeling focused. It takes us from feeling just or believing that we're just one thing to seeing that actually in this moment we're a multitude of expressions, we're a multitude of experiences. And when we do that, we start to put anger or any emotion into its place. We're not trying to get rid of it, and we're not resisting it, but we're putting it into its rightful place, that it's one piece of the whole picture. It's not the whole picture. And in that gives us a little bit more clarity and a little bit more direction. Because here's a saying that I live by. When emotion is high, intelligence is low. So when we're feeling all of this charge, we can't think clearly. And ultimately, when we're in the throes of emotions, we do want to think clearly most of the time, because chances are we're in some kind of an exchange. So keep that in mind. I'm not my emotions. I'm way more than that. So what else am I? Just start to ask yourself different questions. I don't know. See how you go with it. That's my view again. So thanks for joining us here on Carren's Couch. I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation, and I hope that you've enjoyed meeting up with Dr. Greer again. I think she's absolutely fabulous. So make sure that you go to our Facebook page or to the Carren's Couch website and post your questions. Anything that you'd like us to talk to Dr. Greer about, nothing is off limits. Make sure that you let us know, and we'll pose them to her in our next show. Hopefully that you've enjoyed your time here on Carren's Couch. Thanks for tuning in. Go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, tell everybody that you know love Carren's Couch, and we're going to see you here next week. Thanks again. Bye for now.